basically science and alchemy. I'm a chemist during the daytime. I do a lot of graphic art, and I have a lot of interest with where science, art, and spirituality meet. And I wanted to explore those concepts while I created something I couldn't find elsewhere. And so that's where all that came out to. So this whole Dyscrasia fiction thing is Dyscrasia is an alchemical term, essentially, or actually a medicinal term for an imbalance in blood, and that's the basis of the magic system, and that's kind of what got me started.
One of my co-hosts has now joined, Ben Arzate.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Seth's work at all, Ben? He does
I'm afraid.
some really offbeat sword and sorcery. For some reason, I don't know if it was you that decided that synopsis, but for some reason there's a reference to the second book being the best gateway book instead of the first one. Was that a mistake, or is that?
No, that's totally true. But hey, before we get into that, can I mention a funny story here? Because I'm getting to know you guys. They're live, right? So
we're wide open, man. Whatever. Yeah.
Well, I just thought it was. I mean, you're very friendly. So anyone's well, most people anyway, I guess, are blessed that anyone even cares about their artwork. So I appreciate you guys reaching out. So I appreciate your review. I thought it was kind of funny though, because I didn't really meet you until now, right? And so I was just trying to think about it. I was trying to explain to my family and friends. I said, hey, I'm going to be on a podcast, which is pretty cool. I've been leading one of the lead moderators for the Sword and Sorcery group there for, I don't know, forever, a decade or something. There's other moderators, but it's been something I really led. And so I like Goodreads, and it was kind of cool to have you reach out. But so on your profile, it's kind of interesting, though. I assume you're okay with me describing this. You have a picture of a guy in a Santa hat, I think, with like a Joker-like clown face on or something.
That was me for one Halloween. Yeah, that was me attempting to be Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay.
I kind of half-assed it,
Yeah. Well, that's cool because I didn't know who you were. I'm like, okay, this guy likes my stuff, but okay, he's got a funny profile. And then your name is Hatchet Mouth, which kind of sounds like a serial killer or something. and you pretty much invited me. So I'm trying to describe this. Like, okay, so there's this guy who might dress up like the Joker, and he goes by the name Hatchet Mouth, and he wants to. And he invited me to a quiet place, And then I'm like, okay, this is going good. And then I said, yeah, because why not? I mean, who would not follow someone else to a quiet place with that type of invitation? So, anyway, so I'm game to, obviously to talk and stuff. Though I thought I'd love to hear about why your name was Hatchet Mouth, and maybe why this place is called a quiet place.
Okay,
I'm in the right spot. Yeah.
If you want to go over it real fast, Hatchet Mouth, that just seems to me like a good, catchy name for someone who wants to just cut through the bullshit and get to the truth and deliver verbally, what needs to be said. And I guess I kind of, see that in myself, because I can be blunt in a really awkward way, like an endearing way. But as far as the quiet place, it's funny because a few years ago, I think 2015, 2016, everybody became suddenly a political genius, and everybody was at each other's throats over this and that. And I must have deleted 100 writer friends. And it's like, it was so quiet. My news feed on Facebook was so quiet that I felt like a new man. And I guess that's kind of where the name Quiet Place came from. But also,
okay, nice.
My friend Kevin Strange I may have gotten some subconscious influence from him, because he wrote, he has a place in his book Computer Face that has that same place called the Quiet Place. I think that was subconscious influence there. But there you go. Those are the origins of those names. Dyscrasia. Is there a root word that is the source of that? Like, what is that in reference to, like discord or something? Or
yeah, I think it's Greek. I think I'm not a great linguist or anything, but the latter half of that is the crasia part is like a mixture, and then you can have a prefix like a good mixture, or an imbalance of mixture. So you can. Something that's dyscrasic is something that's out of balance, and something that's eucrasic, EU, means it's like a harmonized balance. And so I think
Dyscrasia.
historically, yep. Is that Ben?
Dyscrasia would make a good death metal band name.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it is. I think I'm not sure, but I think they spell it like with a K or something. But you can do a quick check on that. I think it actually is. I think it is.
Yeah, I'm on it.
But, I haven't heard them. It rings a bell. So
there's a Kid song called Dyscrasia with a K, but I don't know. I don't see anything else. But
okay.
Yeah, that's still pretty cool though. I don't know.
Well,
The way to describe the Dyscrasia universe for me to people, and I've only recently started, telling people about it, and I think I've turned one or two people onto it. I think what I would call it is like it's about the Cold War of the gods, maybe, because there are decades of quiet battles between these spiritual forces. Like the one guy's blood is poisoned by this goddess-like figure's wasps or something. It's really warped, man, but I love it.
Thank you. I haven't heard it described that way before, but I think that's.
Did I get it right though? I mean,
yeah, I think so. I think going back to my weird motivation for writing some of this, because I wanted to explore. Like I said, a lot of these, I guess, themes with spirituality and art and science, and I like the idea of having like the magic system based on creativity, which was loosely what this was. I mean, I guess that's what it really was based off of. So this idea was that creativity was embodied within this eldritch god's blood, and then as they were dying out, it kind of got funneled into the people who worship them, who were artists themselves. So but it kind of corrupted everybody, so they all got mutated, and bad things happened. So yeah, that's the kind of link there. Yeah, but I can explain. So you had a question which I should address. So the first book I wrote was Lords of Dyscrasia, and I think it's 6 or 7 basically short stories or chapters that are chronological. Some of them were written as short stories, and then as I did, there were 2 perspectives. I decided to blend it together into one story arc, and that was an exercise in me learning about the universe. So I had tried to write a full novel right off the bat, and for years, and I didn't make any progress because my ideas were just way too complex. And so I had to break it down to smaller and smaller units, and then the short story form worked out better for that. So it's a coherent story. It has one story arc, but the following books, actually, it goes along with the cover. So the first book, the first book, Lords of Dyscrasia, has the main character is Denkin Lysis, so he's the main.
That is Day, dude. Right? DEY, right?
Day is another character who's more passive. So this is like the aggressive dude who kills people with a sword, and Day is more of the passive one who can see a lot of intangible things. So they're related. You got
some beautiful artwork on your shelf back there. That looks like maybe a Dragonlance painting or something.
Right here.
On your other side, right there, yeah.
Yeah, that's an Alan Lee drawing for Dennis McKiernan's The Dark Tide.
You got a lot of fantasy novels I see back there. That I love people's bookshelves.
Yeah, they're kind of a distraction.
No,
when we finish this, I want to make sure I answer your question. So the other books, the covers kind of follow suit. So the Lysis dude is always on there. He's the dude with the sword, and the other lady is Helen. I'm covering her up. I guess my webcam's inverted, so I can't. I'm moving the wrong hands. Anyway, so
perfect.
The reason I call Helen's Daemons the gateway is chronologically Helen starts off young. Lysis is already in existence, so this comes chronologically after Lords of Dyscrasia. But this is a full novel, and Helen starts to become, like, I think, a tour guide. She's actually a human, which I think makes this weird world a little more accessible. Some people had trouble relating to undead dude as the lead character.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted a tour guide. So I came up with Helen. So she's young. She becomes a partner with Lysis, and I wrote this third, but I wrote it as a means for people to get to know her and the world. And then the third book, but the next one with her, she's older now. She's more like a witch. And by the way, I had this cover done by Ken Kelly. I commissioned it, and there's an influence of his drawing of Kiss art covers and stuff. But anyways,
amazing. I love the color. The colors just burst. You know. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah. So I call this the gateway, even though I wrote it third. The idea was, again, there's a human protagonist, and again, people are a little more familiar with, I think, a novel form. It's not a very long novel, but it's still a novel. Again, that leads naturally into the next book. So anyway, if people are new to this sort of thing, I would recommend starting there.
Start at Helen's Daemons, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So you said Ken Kelly did your cover, right?
He did the Spawn, and then there's a guy named Daniel Landerman who did this one. He's, I guess, less well known, but he does a lot of movie posters and stuff. I got his name through a magazine called Imagine FX, which I was learning some digital artwork from, and I reached out to him because I liked what he was doing. He did some really neat stuff, so I commissioned him for that. I did all the artwork for the first one myself. So
wow. I noticed that you did mention earlier that you are a chemist, and I wanted to address that too, because you mentioned alchemy, and I'm just wondering, like, why is alchemy regarded as something that is so, subversive? Isn't it just a matter of converting something from one kind of mass to another? Like, why is it so subversive and thrown in with the association with the mystery schools and such?
Yeah, I could discuss that. Though, I lost all your guys' friendly faces. I don't know.
Right here.
Oh, okay. All right.
Cool. By the way,
yes, you have to forgive Jeremy. He doesn't actually know how to operate this, even after a year of using it.
We're not very professional here, Seth, but we do. I'm proud to promote people's books, especially when they blow me away, like Lords of Dyscrasia did. But go ahead.
Yeah, we are not very professional because we're too busy immanentizing the eschaton. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, you guys are more accessible that way. It's pretty cool. I mean, you're just being down to earth, so that's good. So I think what's cool about alchemy is, and it kind of got developed over many centuries, but if we think about contemporary science and stuff, it's already kind of fractured into something different than what it used to be. So if you go back back in the 1400s or something, around Da Vinci's time, there's a lot of things that blended together. The scientists and artists were largely in the same community, for one. So scientists, in order to document their data, they didn't have computers or cameras or and whatever. So in order to document the world and what they see, they had to draw it themselves, or find someone who could. So a lot of scientists happen to be really good artists. Also, just a lot of the materials that people wanted to study and learn about happened, or things that you could get in, single place, like an apothecary. So the same place that you would get some of the minerals and medicines would be the same place you would get your art supplies. That people were converting and purifying materials in the same spot. So historically, these disciplines of being an artist and a scientist, were kind of, you're all like a Renaissance man. They kind of did it. They did it all. And it turns out a lot of them, as well as they were trying to learn about themselves and what they were doing, a lot of them were trying to learn about spirituality. So a lot of them would want to find out, as you dissect a body, where's the soul? So you get people like Da Vinci, a lot of other artists would, as they were learning about biology and drawing it, they'd be thinking and discussing and trying to find out, what it means to be human as well. So I think now everything's kind of separated into religion and philosophy, and artists are doing their own thing. But a long time ago, when alchemy was kind of really getting going, it was really the same community. And I think because of that, well, I guess some real science got done, but also, depending on who was doing the work. Oh, hey, Kitty. There's a lot of non-scientific stuff that went different ways, or some people got kind of religious about it and stuff. So I think that's what kind of muddied the waters for alchemy.
Well, it's that infamous thing about trying to transmute lead into gold.
Yeah, so some people were doing that, but I think that was one of stereotypes. So I think certainly most alchemists wanted to learn how to control the elements, and to do that, they wanted to turning things into gold would have been a good thing, but I don't think all of them wanted to do that.
You would think people would welcome that kind of ability, but I don't know.
I mean, economics wise, if you could just turn lead into gold, gold would lose any value because it wouldn't be rare anymore. You could just make it.
Yeah.
Well, but if you had your own alchemist that was able to do it, you kept that a secret, right? It would be good.
Well, yeah, that's probably how they would have done it back then. They'd have a lord who could do it.
Yeah, they did it. In fact, there's a lot of history behind that. Is people would sometimes learn stuff and they would want to hide it, and then other people didn't know anything. They know shit, but they wanted to make it seem like they did. So they would publish books that were in code. And that's actually a lead in that is pretty cool. I brought a couple books you guys might think is cool while we're talking about this. Have you guys ever heard of the Voynich manuscript?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fascinating stuff.
I that. Yeah, it's awesome. They so for those of you who are listening, you guys all know it. This is as weird as I am. So yeah, so Voynich is named after the person who actually picked up a copy of it. But it was written roughly 1400s, I think about 50 years before Da Vinci, and it's actually hasn't been deciphered yet, but it's chock full of this really splendid weird stuff. Again, it blends in pregnant women and pools of green with liquid with a lot of weird writing, and people have been using artificial intelligence and all this cryptography for years, and no one knows what the hell it means yet. And so it's kind of no one really knows if there's something good in here or not, but it is something to think about. It's kind of fun to look at all the drawings.
Yeah, there are different theory. There are different factions of people who say that it's this language or that, right? A lot of experts are weigh in, and they all think they have the solution, the key to the manuscript. But as of yet, it has still not been deciphered. But there are some others, actually, some other forgotten tomes that can't be translated. For instance, have you seen the even weirder Codex Seraphinianus?
I don't know.
I thought that book actually was like an art book, it was consciously written as a codex with surreal art with it.
Most likely, but for many years no one could trace the author. It was how
do you spell that? What was it? The codex what?
Seriphianianus. Seraphinianus. I think
you might have seen I think one of the most famous most famous pieces of art from it is a couple having sex on a bed and they fuse together and turn into a crocodile.
Yes, that's actually what I was looking for. Let's see. Yeah, have you seen these before? Is it showing up?
It is showing up. I actually don't know if I've seen this one. So,
oh man, this is fascinating stuff.
I'm gonna find a book, I guess.
I mean, this looks like quite a bit more modern than.
I guess it does. There's more attention to detail, yeah. But wow, it's like a horse maggot. I don't know.
I mean, this looks like an art project to me more than a genuine
I'm pretty sure
illuminated manuscript. That's
But it's in that same class, or was for a time, as the Voynich manuscript. I actually thought that some people were closer to deciphering it here recently. Is that not the case, or?
I don't think so.
Look at that there. Look at that.
I mean, I like the art in this. It's really cool. I mean, this looks like something that was, it looks contemporary, and it looks like if somebody did put it together, they put it together as homage to something, like the Voynich manuscript or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like a, what's that, Reverend Bob, Church of some Genius
J.R.
type of thing.
Dobbs,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But getting back to Dyscrasia, so what exactly do? You say you're a chemist. What do you specialize in? Because you say it has something to do with a microscope in your author bio, correct?
Yeah. I mean, so I work for, I mean, it's not super glamorous, but I work for a consumer products company. So I make a lot of things like shampoo and toothpaste and stuff like that, along with a lot of others. So I have I've had about 24 years of experience learning how to assemble and make different types of creamy like liquids, basically. So we used to make cosmetics, but we sold them off. So my job for the last couple of decades really has been to understand what we would call the microstructure. So just the structure on the light scale that's really tiny, and seeing how they interplay and can be assembled in a way to make a liquid flow or liquid we would call be stable, so not to fall apart. So I use a lot of microscopes. I use something we call rheometers, which is a fancy way of saying it's a device that measures how thick something is. And shampoo and toothpaste and stuff like that may not be it may not be clear why that's kind of cool. I mean, if I get bored on a certain day, I think of all the science behind it is the same as what alchemists would do when they go make their own paint. I've started collecting my own type of pigments, natural pigments from a dyer's garden and from nature to start doing that. So that's what I'm thinking of behind the scenes. If work gets kind of weird or boring. One thing I've always liked, actually, I really loved about my job is that most of my data is images coming from the microscope, and so that in itself is kind of like an artistic form. So I do a lot of image analysis, and it's fun to have data that's actually kind of like art. So.
Something else about this series is that your way with language, I mean, is a talent unto itself. Like, would it be all right if I read a passage to it as an example? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that'd be sweet, man. Yeah.
This is from about 46% of the way into the book. I quoted it because it just flows so beautifully. I would swear that you were like a poet. I'm not big on poetry, but it flows so well that, I mean, it could be poetry. With their images still registering in his mind, he came to a limitless cavern. At the center, the queen's abdomen floated as an island. Her ballooned mass would dwarf the Gravenstein fortress. So large and awesome was the queen. Bodies of dead elders floated about her, with iron crystals growing from their rusting metallic exoskeletons, and the broken shells of 1,000 eggs breaching the surface of the Black Sea. Indincan Lysis emerged onto the isle. The abdomen was soft as human flesh, but less yielding. The surface was scarred, and her egg sac lay exposed from numerous lacerations. I mean, wow, man, you got away with words.
That's pretty cool, man. I've never heard anyone have a reading like so. That's
that was good. So is this
I can't imagine that as like a sorcery.
Yeah, it's mostly sword and sorcery, though. There's some tangential kind of classic weird fiction vibes that I've picked up in certain chapters, which might have an emphasis more on the environment than the action. So the Lysis character tends to be more of a sword and sorcery type of character, and then there's this other guy named Day who's more of a passive watcher. Okay. Then some of his chapters tend to be more like a Clark Ashton Smith type of thing, maybe Lovecraft or something, but it's something a bit weirder, but with less action. Yeah.
And then you say you did the cover for the first book of the series, is that right?
Yeah, I did the cover, and I think there's several dozen illustrations on the inside. I forget exactly how many. So so I did it. I've been I guess growing up, I've always done a lot of sketching and drawing, and then I think that even kind of helped influence to get me into doing the microscopy type of work. Though, to be honest with you, the last decade or so, once I guess I know what I'm trying to think here. So I wanted to get a story around my art, but I couldn't do it with art by itself. I tried doing graphic novels and stuff,
Right.
and it didn't. It needed some words, and then I've actually graduated into just doing like prose now. Just I don't know. That's how it went, I guess. So the world itself. If I ever try to draw it, it comes out really abstract, which is kind of cool. Some people don't like it because they don't know what's going on. But
Right.
yeah. So I kind of want to go back and do more drawing, but lately, I've been doing more and more just writing and trying to refine my craft there.
So this is a trilogy, right? I'm about to begin Helen's Daemons, which you say is the best place to start. Do the Adventures of Day continue in future books? Because this thing that he's got going on with this petrified goddess, did I get that right? I mean, that's probably what sticks out the most to me, is that her blood is poisoned and into like petrified stone, and he is her sworn protector, right?
Yeah, to some degree, yeah. Day, I mean, no huge spoilers. I mean, but he does. His main role is in the first book, The Lurks of Dyscrasia, and then the first book really, the main story arc is with Lysis basically being part of this clan who worships this elder whose blood is like creativity, but is poisonous. So he ends up taking and getting corrupted the most, and his whole bloodline, including Day, who's part of the bloodline. So by the end of the first book, and Dakin turns from a human from the beginning to someone who's like this undead, warrior. And Day is one person that kind of follows him. But the other books, kind of like what the covers illustrate, really are about Lysis continuing being like a defender of the whole land.
Would you call this? That I hear this term pop up a lot in Sword and Sorcery now, called grimdark. Do you know anything about that? What that means?
Yeah, I know a lot about grimdark. So I don't know if I really put it in that category. It's close. So it depends who you speak to. So I wouldn't. Grimdark, often people will think of. It doesn't have to, but they usually think it's a little bit what you call like earthier. That they tend to have a little bit more humans than they would some other type of humanoid creature. They often have people like in the front lines of battle when it's kind of gritty and tend to have pretty dire outcomes. My book is completely full of dire outcomes, but it's a bit more fantasy and weird like. There's very little in the world that looks like say a battleground of, I think, of medieval times or something like that. But yeah, so there's a lot of crossover between grimdark and other sort of sorcery stuff, but I think people. I know that there's a lot of people in the grimdark community who like this weird stuff. I don't know if it fits their diehard definition of what it is. I know a lot about it because like the grimdark actually, from my understanding, came out of like a Warhammer terminology for Warhammer for like 40,000, and the guys who created Warhammer, or that it was at least a lot of the stories behind it, was Ian Jackson and Steve Livingston back when they made. The fighting fantasy game books. I don't know if you guys are that old, but before
I know what you're talking about. Those are great.
Yeah. So, and I love those. Those influenced me way too much. But a lot of their art, a lot of their, I guess, milieus and cultures and stuff came out of those game books, and they certainly influenced me a lot. So I think I would like to appeal to the same type of people, but. I think nowadays the grimdark guys, they have a nice community, and I kind of listen in, but I wouldn't be one to define the boundaries of it really well.
Yeah. So for folks that are listening, like the fighting fantasy books are kind of like choose your own adventure, but you have like dice that you roll to determine whether or not you've beaten the monster or where you need to go in the story. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I used to enjoy those quite a bit when I was a kid. Yeah. And
they were really dark. I don't know if you remember, a lot of the drawings on them were pretty cool.
Yeah,
They were advertised to young adults, but you turn the page and there'd be, there'd be full, corpses and horrific type of thing. It's stuff that you see in Warhammer now, they were doing
Right.
back then. In fact, actually, one of my favorite artists back then was E Lindberg, so the guy who did Darth Maul. Yeah. But you could see his influence in the books because he drew. Whenever he was present, he was drawing people with skulls on their heads and stuff like that. And so you can kind of see him progress. And I love the design of Darth Maul. Anyway.
Yeah, I think Grimdark, like you said, I think it generally has way more of a human cast, and it's more of like kind of like, you know, it's in a fantasy world, but it's kind of like you might as well be saying that it's like, I don't know, Platoon set in the fantasy world or something like that. You know?
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what it looks like what you're doing is, you know, might have some very dark and horrific elements, but it does look like it's firmly within the sword and sorcery camp.
Yeah, and it's something I've been struggling with myself. So I don't know, maybe you guys can help me out with this. Is that I guess when I read or write something, whenever something I seek out is something just really twisted and weird. So I get this high off of like, oh, that's really cool because it's just messed up. I don't know.
Right.
It's just like game wise, you know, like Silent Hill, for instance. I don't know if you guys, most people are familiar, you know, like, this is great. It's full of just sick shit. And it's like, oh, that's great. So I was having trouble finding that. But there's an issue though. And I think, which again, maybe you can help me out with this, is that trying to make something weird and alien accessible is like a paradox, right? You know, so I want people to come, invite them into a weird world, but you know, if it's too weird, then obviously they can't engage with it.
Right.
And if it's not weird, it may not be fun, you know? So it's like this tension of, you know, how do you do that? That's one reason why I migrated away from having like, at least including Helen in as a human figure. Because again, I think people were giving me this feedback of like, hey, Lysis is cool, but he's undead and the world is really messed up. You know, can you give us someone who's alive? You know? Right. And so I said, okay, yeah, that's cool. I mean, I can do that. And I still got feedback that it's still, you know, for a lot of people, you know, too strange, and that's fine. But I am trying to make this world accessible. And I don't know, what do you guys have thoughts on that? Like when you read stuff, like.
Well, one thing that I am turned off by generally when reading either fantasy or science fiction, and I do like both genres, is that if you have made up names for characters and places and things too close together, too close to the beginning of the book, it's not accessible, right? Like, so if you start off like your first page and you're talking about 3 different characters meeting up, they all have exotic names, and they're going to an exotic locale, right, with an exotic name, and they also are riding exotic animals, and they're using and have exotic weapons, right? If you have all these foreign words and phrases too close to the beginning of the book, it's like a barrier to entry, at least for me. You know, so that's one of the things that I've noticed, that if you start out with you know, something that's a little bit more relatable, and you space out the invented words and stuff earlier on, right? Like you have, you know, so it's fine to have like the main character have a weird name and everybody to have a weird name, but if you like say spend time with the main character and you're only really having a weird name, you know, every so often over the first chapter, and the person's doing something that's somewhat relatable, right? I think it eases you into the weirdness, right? If you can have some sort of, I don't know, some sort of something relatable to a human, right? Earlier on, I think. So that's my thinking about it, but you know.
Well, here's what I think. I think that you definitely stand apart from traditional sword and sorcery. And when I say traditional, I mean the big Tor books, door stoppers like Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, 13 volumes, 1,000 pages at each book, you know, and a lot of it's just characters, you know, fussing with each other, braid tugging, making minimal progress in their journey.
Isn't that epic fantasy? That's not sword and sorcery, though.
I've always thought they were the same thing personally, but that's I see that as traditional fantasy. You're not playing around like they are, like describing the banquet and every dish of food on the table, you know, for this banquet, like an entire chapter explaining the fabric on the table and the food and all this. It's like it's a waste. It's a waste of energy. You got to tell the story. is the most important thing. You don't play around and waste time doing that stuff like traditional fantasy authors lately, like Robert Jordan, Terry Goodkind, George R.R. Martin. They linger, they procrastinate, whereas you get to the meat, the marrow of the story.
Yeah, I think the main thing is like a lot of traditional fantasy authors are basically trying to recreate like things like mythological stories and the Bible with like a more modern, I guess, cosmology. I mean, so it's so when you have stuff like that, it's almost like it's like in the Bible where they have long lists of Adam begat Cain, who begat so and so, who begat so and so, who begat so and so, and so and so and so and so for pages on end.
Yeah.
So I haven't read any of your stuff, so I can't really give you any specifics related to what it is that you write. But based on what Mr. Maddox is telling me, it sounds like something that I would like, right? It sounds like it's kind of like Robert E. Howard in that he's more concerned with story, right, than say moving the story along, right, than it is say with Robert Jordan, which is he's more maybe concerned with painting a picture of every scene that exists in the story, right? And just minute detail, right? So, which I'd like story over somebody trying to bludgeon me with the details. So,
yeah, sometimes it's dice of different things. So I think Sir Gregor, I think you mentioned it. Yeah, so there's a grimdark community, and then there's like the classic sword and sorcery community would kind of agree with what I think you said, which is. I mean, the sword and sorcery kind of came out, for mostly Robert Howard's work. That's the way it was coined by Fritz Leiber. But yeah, that was all kind of short stories, serialized. They had to have little, short stories in a magazine that people could read and consume. And
right, a lot of them are novella length, though, right? I mean, a lot of the Howard stuff with Conan is pretty long, short stories.
Oh, okay, maybe. I guess
at least novelette, right?
Yeah. There's some longer ones, but compared to these other, I think the epic fantasy, for whatever reason, it tends to be more of a novel form, though it doesn't have to be. That's the way it kind of came out to be. And, so there is an emphasis of making sure you make some progress on a shorter period of time. So, but Robert Howard, I think people find him a lot more accessible. I'm not sure if you guys have read. Have you guys read like say Clark Ashton Smith, one of his contemporaries?
Yeah, with the title that's really hard to pronounce. Something begins with a Z or an X or something.
Yeah, it's probably I'm guessing Zothique.
Yes.
Yeah. This is fantastic. So he was like Robert Howard and Lovecraft and Clark Ashton Smith. They were like pen pals. Most people know this. So you can get all their letters and stuff. So in addition to publishing, they shared a lot of their, I guess. Past their deaths anyway, their letters had been shared about all their creative process. But Clark Ashton Smith was interested. He was a poet and a sculptor, and he had really a dark sense of humor. But what he wanted to do was not deliver action per se, but he wanted to deliver some type of something between poetry and prose, and he wanted you to feel really weird about it. And the stories are awesome. They're very short, but it's hard to read a lot of them because they're so dense. And he always, I think with the exception of one story so far, I found, or one set, he wrote a lot. He always killed his characters. They were always dying. I mean, his stories are very bleak, but they're beautiful though. I mean, and I mention this because like with the three of those guys, so Lovecraft, Howard, and Clark Ashton Smith are writing at the same time. They often appeared in the same magazines and stuff, but they had totally different like audiences. I mean, Howard was all about action. Lovecraft was like about this, cosmic unknown horror, and Clark Ashton Smith was in between, where he was like, I want to use the language to kind of mess with people and take people to a strange world. What's that?
Well, they call it purple prose, right? I've heard it called that.
Well, some people can call it that, right? It depends. It depends on your, whether or not you have the tolerance for it, right?
Yeah. Calling it purple is usually derogatory.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why, but
they do take. It's interesting. I happen to love Clark Ashton Smith stuff because it's so weird, but actually, it is actually very hard to get to know the character because his character is the world, and then the characters die. So
Right.
I was really trying to model my own writing, I guess, from those three guys. And so one of my characters, when the day guy, his stuff is more like Carcass Smith, and I try to get Lysis to be more like a Howard type of writing. But it's if you have, I mean, those are to me, it's interesting because they wrote to the same audience and they knew each other, but they really had different approaches, and then
Right.
and audiences really took them different ways. I mean, for whatever reason, I think Howard may have survived the best in people. I guess if you want to argue, I guess most people probably know him of those three, only because he had an emphasis on character. He didn't always kill them either, but he
Right.
wanted characters doing action, and that is one. It's fun to read, but I think it's easier for people to latch on to, longer term than the other stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think that I would enjoy the Conan stuff really. I mean, I liked the Conan movie and all that, right? But the character wasn't something that I was generally drawn to, right, as a kid or whatnot. But I just picked up the bunch of Conan stuff recently within the last few years, and I love it. I mean, it's really holds up great. I mean, it's really entertaining, and it moves. It has a very feels modern, like it could have been written recently. It's really good.
I actually prefer the Michael Moorcock style of fantasy, where you get into like the cosmic stuff, but you have mortal, men and women tackling the cosmic, and like a real uphill battle. Something that fascinates me about your work that I've seen so far in book one is how even the most powerful forces in your book, they are so vulnerable to corruption due to these foreign agents that can poison them and petrify them, and like you said, they all mutate when they're exposed to Lysis's blood, right? I mean, it's yeah, you're reaching for something that is more like Moorcock style than say Tolkien and the Silmarillion, which is like Middle Earth Bible talk, but I definitely admire where you're going. And how far do you intend to take Dyscrasia after you released book 3? Like, what now? Are you going to leave it behind?
No. That's a great question. So so what I've shifted gears at the moment. So I started writing a follow-up. The intent was to have about 4 or 5 books, and I actually started them both, but the last couple of years, what I decided to do was, at least for one of them, instead of trying to get it out in a novel form, is I wanted to publish the short stories in different anthologies and stuff, and then maybe string together the several short stories. So I was kind of writing one novel basically as short stories that could be published as standalone, but then strung together. And so I just started that, or I started releasing them, or getting that accepted. So last December, I think, I got one out in a magazine called Whetstone, but from Jason Ray Carney, and it's an online magazine. I have 3 others I've written. I'm trying to shop around for a market right now, and if no one ever takes it, I'll string them together anyway. But I am trying to do this combination of like a short story publication, and then turn it into a novel. Part of that is to try to reach a different different audience and get to know people different ways.
Okay, so you're looking for traditional publishers, not to publish it yourself.
No. It's kind of a mix. So for the short stories, I'm looking for different anthologies and magazines. So kind of like Robert Howard did back in the day, anyway. And so, but what most magazines do now is they let you publish, and then within a year, it depends on they have a contract, but whatever, you get the rights back to publish your story again. Typically.
Right, usually within a year.
Yeah. So that's what I thought I'd do, or I am doing actually right now. We'll see where it goes.
Right.
I think the guys, they're the 3 gentlemen who wrote Karnov, Phantom-clad rider of the cosmic ice. One of them's in a black metal band called Bal Sagoth, which is a Lovecraftian god, I think. But those three guys wrote Karnov, the Phantom Clad Rider of the Cosmic Ice, and I think that their little outfit is called DMR Books, and they were going to be doing some anthologies. Are you familiar?
Yeah, I love. So I think so. Is Dave Richland is the main guy. He has an awesome blog, and publishes great books. In fact, he just published one with John Foltz's work, which I just bought. No, so yes, I definitely know. Well, I know him through like the Sword Sorcery group, and indirectly, I don't know him personally. But yeah,
You're talking about Byron Roberts, right? He's the main guy, right?
I was thinking of the publisher guy for the DMR, I guess, books.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, there does seem to be, it does seem to be alive and well. Barbarians are back, and popular again. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, there's a lot of small press that's doing really well. Another so the DMR publications is big. There's Rogue Blades Foundation / Entertainment. The Pulp Hero Press is awesome. I have like 3 of their books right next to me. I love these guys. I mean, they're awesome. So there's one from here. This one I just reviewed for Blackgate Magazine, Rakefire by Jason Ray Carney. He's the one who runs the Whetstone magazine. And this is a great weird blend of sword and sorcery and poetic madness, I guess.
Cool. Check that out. Yeah.
But Pulp Hero Press has all sorts. I guess I'll pimp my other buddies too here, I guess, indirectly. So I mean, they also released like David Smith's Tales of Atluma. I think I had this on Blackgate as well. This is a collection of stories that David wrote, mainly from his around the universe of his Oron character, who's kind of like a barbarian. This is highly recommended. And here's another one here from my buddy Joe Bonadonna. He and I write also for Perseid Press, but Joe's a great guy. He writes these he calls it like Gothic noir. So you can kind of imagine like a sword and sorcery guy who's actually kind of like a detective investigating really weird stuff. But good, yeah. He just released his 3rd book in this Mad Shadow series. And so if you kind of like what do you call it? Noir movies, but also want some weird action to it. Joe's work is great.
You familiar with Mark E. Rogers from the 80s?
No, I'm not actually. That looks pretty cool though. Keep that up there for a second. Okay.
Blood and Pearls. It's book 1 of the Zankarthus series. Now, Mark Rogers passed on several years ago, but he also wrote the Samurai Cat books, which were kind of a novelty for several years in the 80s. Have you read the Samurai Cat books? They're
adding to my to-read list right now. Yeah,
they're a lark. They're a joke, but I mean, he's taken on everybody from the devil himself to Darth Vader, and because it's like a pastiche or a parody, I guess he got away with that, without being sued. But yeah, this is serious fantasy right here, though. This doesn't play around. And my favorite part is when the evil sorcerer in the beginning has one of his minions. He's addressing him for his failure, and he threatens to cast Parchment Lung on him, which is a horrible spell. You can just imagine it basically turns your lungs into, like
paper. Yeah.
Paper thin. Yeah. It's Parchment Lung. Yeah. And he does it. And the guy dies in agony. But this book does not play around. This series, I haven't read the 2nd one yet, but that's an obscure one that doesn't get a lot of love,
So is that new or is that from?
No, this is from the 80s.
Okay.
It was published by Infinity Publishing. And it's even got his autograph in here, even though I didn't. Published September 1999. Copyright 1998. Okay, maybe not. I know he was big in the 80s, though, for Samurai Cat and The Dead, his take on a zombie apocalypse, I guess, But, damn it.
You guys got moved around, or did we lose the hatchet?
Jeremy's camera broke.
Yeah, Jeremy's camera broke. So I noticed that on your book covers, you got Dyscrasia Fiction, like registered trademark or TM or R, whatever. It seems like it's both variously. So
testing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, if I, as a just general reader, right, if I were to have seen that, I'd be like, oh, is this related to a role-playing game or a video game or something like that? Because it kind of gets the impression that it's like maybe a tie-in novel because of the way that that's presented.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's kind of a dream of mine because I'm like a board game fanatic.
Mhm.
I bet you role play. You do Dungeons and Dragons or have at one point, don't you?
Well, sure. I mean, I guess I've always liked that type of stuff. Though I think most of the time I did more solo play, like through a computer, than trying to get some guys together or something. But
Right.
the last couple of years, I've gone haywire on Kickstarter because there's awesome miniature games you can get, and that I'm getting in. I'm spending too much of my hobby money on that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah. I've seen some of those, man. There's like huge, giant boxes full of these minis and these crazy, complicated games. And yeah, it looks.
I have a lot of them because I had trouble saying no to those things. But I don't think I want to recreate those exactly. But I do. Going back to the fighting fantasy thing, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to recreate part of my childhood. I mean, the fighting fantasy books really got me stoked about games and like weird dark fantasy stuff.
Right.
And I do want to do something in the gaming world. I don't know what yet. So I the last several years I've been trying to kind of mingle with the game crowd. I go to Gen Con a lot, which is in Indianapolis nearby.
I've been there.
The largest. Have you? Yeah. So and trying to get to know a lot of the writers and designers of these games. I don't know. I want to do something there, but I don't know what yet.
So you'd like to have like a tabletop role-playing game developed?
Yeah. Going back to this artistic thing, there's the magic is all like based on color or colored blood. So there's like and the way they interact is I guess they different colors when blended with other colors of blood they do things. So there's an aesthetic part of the magic which is just integral to the whole thing, and I'd like to make that more tangible so that you can't experience that in a book. But I've actually developed a couple like games at home to try, but nothing's clicked yet, I guess. So yeah, that's something I'd love to do in the future. We'll see what comes out.
Yeah, it's based on what I've seen, like the color, the covers. It looks like in the concept that it looks like it would lend itself to a RPG of some sort, right? I mean, like a tabletop.
Yeah, actually, so here's another thing too. So I've been trying. So like I'm actually kind of helping out a little bit behind the scenes as like an intern, more or less, with this Tales from the Magician's Skull magazine. I just want to pimp that because there's something that I really love about this magazine. That they're 5 in, so it kind of came out of a
huge magazine.
Well, it looks big, but it's kind of thin. I don't know. They made it.
Well, yeah, but still, it's oversized. Cool.
Well, the best thing I like about this is that what they do is they have like about 7 or 8 stories that are all sword and sorcery, and then the back they have someone write up stats for all the stories. So if you wanted to relive any of the stories, you could. Though the stories themselves they're nothing like an RPG. In fact, they don't like to do that. They don't like to. All the stories are very non-RPG-ish. I guess they're very unique. They don't have like elves and dwarves and stuff like that.
So what do you mean that at the end they have stats? What, related to characters, like character sheets?
Yeah, the characters or any characters or weapons mentioned in the short stories, they'll draw up so you can play them primarily in this Dungeon Crawl Classics universe, which is pretty much a generic type of.
I know what you're talking about. I've played that.
Yeah, so I love that idea, and I think one of the next steps for me is to just move toward 100% prose and toward something like that, where I could have my stories and then have some type of gaming stats or something to
like a rule book of some sort, right? I mean, it would be cool. Yeah. I just I like looking at the rule books, right? Like, I mean, obviously you can't play them all, right? I'm not young enough to be able to go back and spend hours upon hours of time just going from various different game sets to another, right? But you know, I got buddies that have, you know, huge collections of these rule books for various different gaming systems, and I just love looking through them. The artwork's great, and then just all the, you know, stats. I mean, I play some, you know, D&D and role playing, Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that periodically, as much as I can as an old man, right? But yeah, I love that.
You have
stuff.
like a gaming group or?
Yeah. So, I mean, we do it online most of the time. Sometimes we get together as humans, but people, you know, people are kind of spread out, right, across the United States. So a lot of times we'll just, you know, get on Discord or something and play that way.
What's your alignment?
My alignment currently, what I'm playing now is a chaotic evil character. Yeah.
I would say chaotic neutral for myself.
Oh, what's my alignment in real life?
Whatever, which either
well,
one.
I mean, the character is chaotic evil. I wouldn't say that I'm chaotic evil. I'd probably say probably maybe chaotic neutral. Maybe.
Chaotic neutral seems the most fun. Yeah. You know, I used to want to go into berserker mode, and the dungeon master guy that feels
you seem
so
to do a good job of it sometimes.
the guy who was set up the games, you know, the dungeon master, it feels weird calling another guy a dungeon master for some reason. But anyway, he was very much vehemently against me being berserk because I don't want you fucking up my, you know, stats or my area or my character, you know. Berserk is uncontrollable, blah, 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 you know. And I mean, he took it religiously, you know. And I said, all right, you can do that, but you're going to live with the consequences, is what he told me. Like I was making a horrible life choice by wanting to go into berserk mode or something.
Well, you're just making you're making his life harder, right?
Right.
He's actually got to improvise, right? Based on your.
I think the berserk mode fits, you know, your personality. I mean,
well, I would say so. Yes.
You think so? Just from this one meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to say, man, I feel like we may have scored over our heads, man, getting you on here. Do you feel let down that I'm not professional?
I love this. No, this was awesome, man.
Okay.
I mean, the reading, talking to Aaron, you guys are very approachable. He is pretty. Again, seriously, it's cool to talk to anyone.
Don't worry. Sorry,
people actually know what you're talking about, right? I mean, we actually kind of know what you're referring to.
You guys are the only guys I've talked to who know what the hell the Voynich manuscript was. You guys are like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wrote a story based on the Voynich manuscript just last week, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of different, you know, mysterious tomes out there that require translation, but they can't. You know, aren't there some like old Babylonian tablets that we still don't know what they mean, or Sumerian, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Those civilizations blow my mind. I mean, we know so little about them, and like they came from like the dawn of man,
right.
Almost.
And what we think we know is probably wrong.
Yeah, it's crazy what we don't know. But
haven't you read Zechariah Sitchin? It's obvious it was aliens.
Aliens seeded the earth, yeah, and brought us here, yeah, as what, cattle or something, whatever. But I wish that I had at least read one more book before I got you on, though, to be truthful.
Well,
that's
not necessary. I was actually going to say I have I mean, I can get you guys or some of your listeners some complimentary books and stuff. I have I'm trying to think here. I have to check on the Audible. I have like roughly 15 Audible codes for Helen's Demons and maybe 7 for Spawn of Dyscrasia that I can get to people if you use Audible, and then you know, paperbacks or ebooks I can get to people. Certainly, you guys on the show there. I don't know.
I'll take an Audible code if you want to send me one.
Yeah. I don't know how to. And then if there's someone listening to live or want to, I guess. I don't. Tell me if I'm doing this wrong, Jeremy. I mean, can people?
Well, yeah, we can
people bug you, and I'll, you know, at least for. I mean, I can't give them out to hundreds of people, but you know, certainly there's a few people who have it.
I mean, with the Audible codes, you get paid, right? Like if I use it, you get money.
I think they do. I think they generally do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I really care about that. The key thing is that no one else has to pay. Yeah.
Yeah, the listeners.
Right.
Anyone listening who wants an Audible code for, what'd you say, Helen's Daemons or Lord of Dyscrasia, book 1, right?
No, it's those I ran out of, so I only have them for the Helen's Daemons and Spawn of Dyscrasia.
Okay, book 3. So yeah, if they want to, if they want an Audible code, can they email you for it? It's Team Lindberg. It's right there on the screen. LINDBERG. Team Lindberg at gmail.com. Right?
Yeah. So if if you want like an ebook or something, I can probably get it back to that address. And then if you, I do have some paperbacks, especially for people who might be entertaining like a review or rating or somewhere, that's pretty appreciated. But
yeah,
give me a
anybody
postal
that's
address.
like a YouTube reviewer, right? Like a booktube person, that would be the ideal person to send to. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Or any rating or review is always appreciated, especially even if you hate it, and you guys probably know this, but even if you hate the stuff, that's cool. Anything that helps a future reader know that a book might be good for them,
Right.
is great. So like if you hate it, that's awesome. If you can explain in one sentence why, just so the next person knows, that it sucked, but for for a certain reason.
Right. Yeah. Negative reviews sell books too. So yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones is the negative reviews. It's just stellar, but it's
Has the reception been good?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'll keep doing it. There's only so many people who like this sort of stuff, So
yeah, it's like horror, right? Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's a very niche type of audience.
It satisfies that that deep down, urge to just leap out of your body and delve into the supernatural. It's like it's food for your imagination. This kind of stuff, this genre work is more important than most of the award-winning like Oprah and Newbery Prize winners and whatnot. I think that genre work is far more important because it touches everybody who's a reader. It can, whereas books that win these fancy awards, they have to almost touch on something that doesn't make any sense. But genre work belongs to everybody deep down. Am I making sense here?
No.
I thought Bizarro was the one that didn't make any sense.
Which one?
Bizarro. I've written Bizarro.
You haven't you? And by the way, this is our next guest. Not to be all.
Oh,
hi, Lisa Dabrowski is joining us now. And Seth, if you want to hang around, you're more than welcome. We're probably going to start moving into talking with Lisa for a little bit about her work. I published a story in an anthology with her a while back. I don't really recommend reading it.
The anthology, not her story, right?
Not mine. Not reading mine. Not Lisa. Okay, but
what was the anthology? Which one was it?
Protected for Content, which I'm about to pull up. And it was more than one volume, actually, Lisa, right?
Yeah, 3.
I swear I meant to read it before I came on, and I just got so caught up with dishes and laundry and just normal people stuff. It sucks, but what are you going to do, So
I think it was a story about George Washington getting his, can I say dick on the air?
You can say whatever.
You can say anything.
No, it was a big FU to the government, basically, in Bizarro form.
And it was published through J. Ellington Ashton Press. Are they still around?
I don't know if they are. I don't deal with them anymore. I deal with Oneros.
Cool.
I thought Oneros was a Spanish language. What's Spanish language? Or am I thinking of another press?
J. Ellington Ashton Press was run by
Oneros.
No, it's not Spanish. They're based in England, actually, and they produce a lot of poetry and a lot of odd people like me.
Oh, okay. I must have got them confused with another one.
So you were in this anthology, is what you're saying, Maddox, right?
Yes, okay. But like I said, I'm a broken author. I've got to put something back together before I can comfortably call myself one again. I'm nowhere near anyone in this room in terms of productivity or even talent. I'm just broken for whatever reason.
You're really good at being self-deprecating, that's for sure.
I am, aren't I? But you're doing a great job, though, Seth. And
I don't want to take the limelight away from Lisa. So I'll stop my camera and listen for a little bit, but then I'll leave in about 10. So if I depart, I don't want to be rude.
Okay.
So let me just
I got you.
thank all you guys. You guys.
You have any sites or anything you want to plug before you go?
I don't. My website has links to everything. So it's actually E Lindberg, like my name, .com. So that's an easy way to find me and any of the stuff I've written.
got it. I'm putting that link in the description.
Yeah, and I do a lot of I guess cross publication with Blackgate Magazine that I'm also involved in, and I do a lot of interviews with people on this topic of weird beauty and weird fiction, and so I guess we're in good company there. So that's my plug. Love being here. So thanks, guys. You guys
I'll definitely check out some of your stuff.
For coming.
All right. Go get them, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
All right. So Lisa, tell me a little bit about your style. I like I said, I didn't get to check it out, but I just remember your name from Rejected for Content. You had one in book 1 and book 3, right?
I believe so. It's so hard for me to remember. It was so long ago. But my style, you want to know the genre?
Yeah.
I do horror. I do erotica. I do horror erotica.